So what do we think about this pricing before we go any further?
Well, you're paying more and getting less, which has kind of been a trend as of late. So, as we previously discussed, the Disney Dining Plan is returning in 2024, and now we do have pricing for it. So, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into this, see what's included, and whether or not we personally think it is worth it or maybe worth it for certain families or situations.
Yeah, and we had done an episode about the dining plan. It's been years. It's been years since we've done it. And so this is a good refresher, but also a little bit different this year going into 2024. So I think this is a good time to talk about it. What do you think?
I would agree, since it's
right.
I'm going to assume it's much more expensive.
Well, let's see. Let's see, shall we?
I'm going to say this as if I don't know, but I'm going to take a guess here. This is a game show. Is it more expensive now? You're like, I'm guessing.
All right. So the Disney Dining Plan pricing. This is I'll just call it the standard one. So adult pricing is $94.28 per night. Kids age 3 to 9 is $29.69 per night. In this package, or in this dining plan, it includes per guest each night of your stay, 1 table service meal, 1 quick service meal, 1 non-alcoholic or alcoholic drink per meal, 1 selected snack or drink, and the resort refillable mug. Okay?
For the length of your stay.
This is per night.
So, yeah, you get the refillable mug.
Sorry, yes, the refillable mug is for your length of stay. Yes. Okay, so the 2024 Disney Quick Service Dining Plan is as follows. It's $57.01 per adult.
Got to get that penny.
For children, it's $23.83 per child. And it includes 2 quick service meals, 1 non-alcoholic or alcoholic drink per meal, 1 selected snack or drink, and the resort refillable mug. Okay, so first, now we got the pricing down for 2024. So kids in the 20 range, and I feel like those are good prices for kids. Wouldn't you say? I mean, kids don't need a lot in general.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I figured the main one, it would be in the 30s. So they're close to it. They're right. $29.69, but it's still in the 20s. But yeah.
Right. The adults obviously are priced a little bit more, but I do want to look at the 2020 prices to compare.
Yes.
And to see kind of where we're coming from, because this is the first time it's returned since 2020. So this is the last pricing that we can see. For the Disney Dining Plan, that's the regular one, it used to be $78.01 per night for adults.
Ouch.
And $30.51 per night for children. As you can see, it went down in price for kids.
A little.
By $1. And it increased in price for adults by $16.
Right.
$16 more per adult for that. For quick service dining plan, it was $50 to $55 per night for adults and $26 per night for kids. Again, the kids' pricing went down $3.
The adult. Well, the adults went up too.
The adult pricing, it went up. Let's see, I can't do the math. Oh, it was just $2.
Yeah, $2.
Yeah. So that's really good, right? A couple of changes though this year. There used to be 2 snacks included. Now there's just 1 per night. There is no longer appetizer included with table service credits. That used to be part of it. You still get the dessert, you still get the entree and the drink, but no appetizer. And there's also no Disney Dining Plus or Deluxe Disney Dining Plan that has returned yet. So these are the only 2 options you can choose from. So what do we think about this pricing before we go any further?
Well, you're paying more and getting less, which has kind of been a trend as of late.
Right. And if you think about snacks, how much are they? If you average a snack at Disney, $6?
I feel like most are in the 5 to 6 range.
Okay.
Depending on what you get.
So they're saving that and also charging you more.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people not having the appetizer is going to be a thing for them. Again, this is speaking from, we've never used the Disney dining plan because it just,
Yeah, I guess we should have said that.
it's never something that we felt like, at least for our family as it currently is, works out. Granted, our kids are little, so maybe, if you have older kids, it obviously makes maybe a little bit more sense.
And I do want to talk about that when we're done at the end, if it's worth it, because I have more thoughts about that, actually.
But I mean, if you're asking me if I'm surprised at this, that it's going to cost more and they took things away, I'm not. This is kind of the trend, this is the trend that Disney has had ever since COVID. And granted, they were on this trend to begin with before COVID happened, but definitely since COVID, it has definitely been when something does come back, it is in a lesser form than it was before, and you're going to pay more for it.
Unfortunately, that is true.
Yeah.
So, and the only thing that I will say, and I know this was present in 2020, is the presence of being able to get an alcoholic drink. So if you're an adult and you want to drink with your meals, I feel like that, I mean, it could be almost $20 for a drink. If you got like a cocktail.
It could be, yeah.
I mean, that's, if you have if you have a quick service and a table service, that's $40-ish, $30 for drinks.
It definitely depends on how you use it, whether or not what you get out of it and things like that, for sure.
But if let's say you're an 11-year-old adult, you know what I mean? Because you're an adult at 11 years old, obviously you're not going to get that alcohol. But some things I want to mention too: the restaurants that require 2 table service credits are Cinderella's Royal Table, Akershus, which I'm surprised about, actually. Storybook Dining at Artist Point. Dinner at Be Our Guest. All of the Signature Dining Restaurant. That's not new. That's always a thing. Dinner shows like Hoop-de-Doo Review. And the private in-room dining at Grand Floridian. So, I mean, Cinderella's Royal Table doesn't surprise me. Be Our Guest, I know it's expensive. It kind of surprises me, maybe.
It doesn't really surprise me. That dinner has been very expensive since they did the way they've done dinner there.
Yeah, it's like if there's princesses there, you're going to get 2 table service credits.
The princesses, they're pricey gals.
And I didn't know this actually, but if the 2 quick service credits are required for pizza pickup, like at value resorts and some of the moderates.
That seems odd.
You get a large pizza and 2 single serving beverages.
Yeah.
Included with that. So that's just an FYI. So if you do want pizza on property, it's going to be 2 quick service credits, which seems like expensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and some things to think about this too. Tips and gratuity are not included. So you still have to tip. Well, you just don't have to, but they're tips. That's something you have to think about, I suppose, but probably should tip.
Except for Cinderella's Royal Table and Hoop-de-Doo, because that's a prepaid meal.
And that's included in there, yeah.
Yeah.
So meals are non-transferable between party members and expire at midnight on day of checkout. Which
is interesting because, I mean, like, yeah, they're non-transferable, but if you're all eating together, like, you could just use somebody else's, right? Like,
that seems really, you've already paid for it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is not on the list of available restaurants? Well, actually, before we do that, so when you're talking about, and this, we're just saying this is because people may hearing this may be a little confused.
Right.
So when you have a table service that requires 2 table service credits and maybe a quick service that requires 2 of them, and you're looking at you get 1 per thing, how do they just going to have to bank them to be able to use them? So
the way that I understand that it works is that you basically, the credits get loaded onto your account when you check in. So it's not like you just get
1 per meal,
1 every day, like it's added on.
You can use
it's just on your account.
It's like a bank account you've got, and you can spend it as quickly or slowly as you want.
That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
So
it's not that it makes any sense if it requires 2 table service credits and you only have 1. I mean, you wouldn't be able to eat there if that was the case.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. So if you wanted to use nothing for a day, it's fine. You can just use it the next day. Yeah.
Which, I mean, you used to see people do this all the time. You could tell when they were going to leave is because they all were trying to spend all their snack credits at a place.
Which is, I think, why they're not doing as many snack credits, because people were just they had so many left over and they were just like getting all this stuff.
I mean, it could be, but at the same time, too, people paid for it. And, some people just...
Yeah, but Disney can just take it away really, like, just...
True.
Real quietly,
I understand. I
know?
understand. But at the same time, like, I think people like having... A lot of people like the idea of banking things if they need it. Like, a lot of people don't want to spend it all up front. Now, I guess it depends on who you are. Some people may want to spend it all up front, and then toward the end of the trip, they're like, oh, we're out of credits. So let's, pay out of pocket. And some people would rather just have that stuff built up. And then the worst case scenario before they leave, they spend them all before they go. So,
right.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to sort of how you use it in that sense. But
yep.
But okay, let's talk about what is not on the list of available restaurants.
Okay, so I was looking through it all and I was seeing. So Joffrey's is not included. You're going to have to pay out of pocket for that one. California Grill, interestingly enough, wasn't on the list. Again, this is not an end-all be-all list. I mean, they could add to it, they could take it away until it actually starts. But these are some notable ones that I saw. Mm-hmm. California Grill's not. I don't know if it's because it's a prefix menu.
It could be.
But Be Our Guest is a prefix menu. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Space 220, not on the list. STK at Disney Springs. And then Monsieur Paul and Chefs de France in France and at Epcot. Those are some of the notable ones I saw.
Okay.
Interesting about those. Again, list could change, but if you're going to eat at those, you're going to have to pay out of pocket.
At least as of now. Yeah.
Right.
So.
But yeah, so.
Okay. Well, let's get into this. We've gone over the pricing and everything like that. So I suppose we could hit the pros and cons, and then we can talk about whether or not we think it's worth it or not. So the pros of this would obviously be you pay all up front before you're leaving. We've talked about before. Yeah, we talked before having a more relaxed trip. Not to worry. When you get there, it's almost like an all-inclusive resort type of vacation.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about stuff.
And if you want to order something more expensive that's included in the plan, then you don't have to stress about it and be like, oh, I feel so guilty for ordering the most expensive thing. Nah, it's a credit. Just get it.
I could see that where if you've already paid for it, you're just going to go and say, yeah, I want the T-bone or, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. And especially if you're thinking you want to get the most out of your money or get the cocktail that costs $20,
right.
Something like that.
Right. Another pro is that it can be very easy to use, especially quick service where you can just scan your band and it automatically takes off the credits when you pay. So, I mean, that's just, especially kid groups, like cheer groups or sports groups, so they go on their own but they can add the dining plan. They don't need a credit card. They can just scan their band and eat. You know what I mean? It's so easy. You can also keep track of credits that are remaining on MDE, or at the bottom of your receipts, it'll tell you how many is left.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
And I also think if you're gonna do a lot of character meals, this would work out well because I think that's a lot of families use it for that reason.
I mean, I would.
Yeah,
I definitely would. Yeah, and I think if I had the dining plan, if we decided to get it one time, I literally would get the most expensive thing on the menu.
Oh, absolutely.
Just because it was available, just because I could. I know we just talked about that before, but if there's a dish that's $50, and before I'd be like, I don't know if I want to spend $50. Now I'd be like, heck yes, I'm spending $50.
I mean, if we got the dining plan and you were like, I'd like a salad, I'd be like, she needs a minute. I think what she meant was
she needs a minute.
She wants the filet mignon with a house salad. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. I'd be the same way where I would be very much tempted to just get the most expensive stuff because it doesn't. You've already paid for it and you're getting. Your varying of what you can get on is so much. So yeah, I would agree with that. But
yeah.
So I suppose the pro there could be that you could just be a little bit more. Try nicer dishes maybe than you normally would since it's already paid for,
Yep.
So,
yep.
I suppose we could talk about some of the cons here.
Okay.
So one would be in many cases we talk about it may not actually be a cost-saving thing for your situation. It could be, but I think for many people it's more of a convenience and not necessarily saving you actual money.
I would agree with that. I think it's more convenience, more of a, I already paid for it, I don't have to worry about it thing than it is saving any money.
Yeah.
just looking at the regular Disney dining plan, I'm just going to give an example here. So it's $94 for an adult. So and you have that snack credit. You've got the table service meal. You got the quick service meal. Let's say the snack, you got a Mickey bar. Let's say it was $6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say for quick service, you decided to get just a burger and fries. I mean, that could cost you like, $20. Let's say it's $20.
Right.
Okay. That's $26. And then let's say you decide you want to at a table service restaurant. I'm just throwing one in there. Let's say Chef Mickey's. Let's say you go to Chef Mickey's to have the buffet for dinner or for lunch. And I think it's $59 now. Is that right? It's close to it.
It's up there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're spending, that's like $86 right there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're not saving anything, but it could almost equal out to about as much as you would spend.
Right.
So that's just an example, but I think it could work for those that, again, just want a little bit of a freedom of stress, freedom of choice, I guess. I can choose whatever I want. I don't have to worry about money.
I feel like that's kind of always been the perk of it a little bit. Yeah. So I think another con can be that you may have extra credits left over. Mm-hmm. That can be something that, like we said at the beginning, you're trying to use them all, or you just leave and you don't use them, and you basically have just sort of wasted money.
Right.
That's something there.
Like table service, if you don't have time,
right,
it's gone forever. You don't get that back. Snacks are a little bit easier. You just go in,
true,
get a snack.
Yeah.
So that is another con to the dining plan. Another con that I didn't actually think of till just now. Sometimes cast members aren't especially a fan of dining plan.
I was going to say this because a lot of times when you sit down when it's going on, they'll ask you, are you using the Disney dining plan?
And they're going to start asking that again,
and when you say no, we've had many times where they go, oh, thank God.
Yes, they're like relieved.
So
because,
I don't think that's going to affect your service necessarily, but I have gotten the impression that the servers and the waitresses and people don't enjoy. I don't know as to why. I mean,
I think it's more complicated on their end.
Probably.
Like they have to make sure that it's all correct and lined up, because then if it's not, then it's back and forth between the guest and the server trying to figure out what the problem is.
Or people not. Yeah, I could see that being some issues. So, yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people don't realize they have to tip. I'm sure
I've always wondered that too.
too.
And I don't know how much Disney tells people ahead of time.
I don't know.
I'm actually confused as to why they don't offer, like most cruise lines, like just offer something that includes tips.
That would be great.
I mean, I feel like that would make a really easy process, but I don't know. I don't think they offer that way. But some people may forget that they need to tip.
Yeah.
On that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I would think the other one could be also people, like we mentioned, they could use up all their credits early on in their trip.
Yeah.
And then they're left with,
paying out of pocket.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And people may account for that, but that's just something that it does, as much as it can be more carefree or stress free, you still have to keep track of all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
true.
That can just be another thing you're trying to keep track of on your trip. When you already have a trip full of, Genie Plus reservations and lightning lanes and park reservations and park hopping and this, it's again, this is just add to another thing that you have to keep track of on your trip.
Yep.
So,
truth.
Any other cons you can think of or pros that you thought of just now?
Not at the moment. I'm just trying to think of like, is it worth it?
Well, that's the next question.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
And really the correct answer on this is it just depends. There's no way to say it is or isn't, because this is a question when it was going on, I think one of the most common ones we would get from people would be, do you think the dining plan is worth it? Again, it just comes down to, I suppose, if it saves you time, if it saves you anxiety, if it makes your trip easier, if it's worth it for you, then yeah. If you're very budget conscious and you want to make sure that you aren't overspending or you have a certain budget, then maybe not. So as not of a maybe not the answer people want to hear, it does depend on your situation.
For us specifically, like before we had kids, this is not something we would even consider, because when we go to Disney, we really don't have big appetite. we're usually going, and like we're usually okay with doing snacks or a lot of quick service, and occasionally we'll do table service. But it's just kind of how we've always toured the parks. Now that we're, we have the podcast, we have the kids and everything, and we're doing more of the table service stuff and more like food reviews, it may be more worth it. But I don't know if I would. Worth it in pricing? No. Worth it in like quality of food or quality of experience? Maybe. Yeah.
Well, I can say until our daughter eats more foods in general, I will say it's not going to be worth it for us because she eats like 6 things. And she is doing better, but she doesn't eat a wide variety of foods.
Yeah.
So I would have our time spending about $30 per day on her just to, which I would end up eating it.
Well, and this is a good thing to bring up. So if you add this to your vacation package or you're an annual pass holder and you add it to your room only package, you have to apply it to everybody in the room.
Right.
You can't just pick and choose who gets it. Like if it's all 4 of us and only Jared and I want it, that they won't do that. It has to be every single person that's booked to stay in your room or that has tickets or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
So that also can be a con, especially if you have children that eat like birds or are very picky, and then just there's so much wasted food. That could also be kind of a drawback.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I just feel like in general it doesn't end up saving you money. If I were to take a guess, I mean, if you're going to say worth it, I think in most situations you're not going to save more money. But if it allows you to have a better quality vacation, then okay. But again, if you're going to eat all these foods, you got to think too, that is time out of the parks, like we were saying in our situation. So if you want to spend more time in the parks, and not as much doing table service, the dining plan may not be something that you would get value out of because of that reason.
So I agree with you, but only for the Disney Dining Plus and the deluxe one that's no longer offered.
The quick service one, maybe.
Quick service would be better for that, but like those 2 ones that had like so many table service credits and like you would basically be eating table service every single meal. Like, no, I wouldn't recommend that unless you're like a huge foodie.
But some people go to Disney just to eat.
Absolutely.
So in that situation,
absolutely. You can also use your snack credits. I forgot to mention that. You forgot to use your snack credits at Epcot festivals at the booths.
Yeah.
You can use those. And if you notice, sometimes on the menus, you will see that Disney Dining Plan little box that says that it's qualified for the plan, which we've been seeing for literally 3 years and no dining plan. So I was like, why are they putting those on there still? But yeah, so if those qualify for a snack credit, you can use your snack credit for one of those, which is also cool.
Yeah.
I do like that. So that is a pro.
Yeah.
That is a pro for that one. But for us right now, where we are, not worth it for us. Would we try it if free dining came around? Perhaps.
That's the thing I want. Like, I do wonder if Disney ends up pulling that back out. Because if you remember, Disney did the free dining plan or offered it whenever after 9/11 to get people to come back. Mm-hmm. I feel like Disney likes having it. But again, as it went on, it became more restrictive as, time went on. So that's something they could always turn back on if, they feel like they ever need it.
Here's another con, not for the person buying the package necessarily, but for everybody else. Dining plan, like the prevalence of dining plan also affects how easy it is to get dining reservations. Because if more people are buying the dining plan and have all of these like credits to use, and that more people are going to be eating in the restaurants, it can be harder to find reservations.
Yes, very true.
That is a unintended consequence. I don't know if that's unintended, but yeah, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think the answer to that is it depends.
It depends,
and that's coming from us on. Yeah, I guess that's what we would say about it. So
yeah,
but if you do have questions about it, and like, there's plenty of people, especially if you're in Club 32. There's a lot of people that eat a lot when they go to Disney, or even in the main group. Joining the Facebook group or joining Club 32 is a great place to ask those questions, because a lot of people have used it and can answer, from personal experience and all those things as well. So, I mean, I can see us, on maybe a kid-free weekend, sometime you and I using it, trying it out. So we didn't discuss this, and it just came to mind. I'm assuming, how many nights, is there a minimum you have to purchase? You can't just get this for like one stay in one night, correct?
I think you have to do it for 3 nights, I think is the minimum.
That's what I was assuming. Okay. So I suppose if we're ever there on a kid-free, which for us would be a rare 3-night thing, we might try it for
is
that.
that
I mean,
gonna happen?
we usually only stay for like 2 nights max, especially when we're with
Yeah.
the kids. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind as well. You can't just get this for, like, if you're there for 5 nights, you can't just get this for 1 night. You have to get it for the length of your stay, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, you have to get for the extra
yeah.
stay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing. It's either a pro or a con in that case. So we may try it one of these days. We'll see. I mean, I think as your kids get older, it may be more sense and be easier to do. So,
Until they're 10.
right.
And then they're adults and you're like,
You're on your own, kid.
Right.
But yeah, so our ultimate conclusion is it depends.
It does depends.
It depends on your situation. So,
All right.
but yeah, I think that was some good information that we went through, at least, help lay out, what it looks like coming back.
Yeah.
And you can do all the math and, whether it works for you in your situation if you're thinking about doing it.